My girl likes to party all the time, party all the time, party all the time.
My girl likes to party all the time, party all the time, party all the time.
That was Mike and a little bit of Manny. That was Mike and a little bit of Manny. And we are at the Buildings show, Buildings show at booth number 1322, and it's looking very orange here.
Yes, it is.
We are at Schluter, North America, Schluter, Canada. We're excited. Carlito is really excited about this podcast. Let's get right into it, Mike. All right, tell us a little bit about you, how long you've been at the company, what do you do at Schluter?
Michael Cardoso. Yeah, regional manager for Ontario, just looking after all the distribution channels. I help manage the team as well. So a few different responsibilities. We've grown so much, as I'm sure you guys have realized from where we were. Todd being a single person in this industry. I've been in this industry for over 20 years. I actually met Todd on the retail side, which was really interesting for the first time, and here I am today working for the company. Working with Schluter for about 3 years now, but I had a multitude of different roles within this industry, which has been really beneficial for me to see all aspects of what's happened. So I started off in a mom and pop shop, did a little bit of installs, a little bit of, just kind of on the sales side, grew from there, went into a distribution role as a rep, worked on the retail side of that position, as well as I went on to the architectural, doing all the specs.
Wow.
Specifying
so you
for all
were
the
laying
architecture.
tile. In the very beginning, you were laying tile.
I laid tile a little bit, not very much. I couldn't say I made a living out of it, unfortunately, but enough to know how to work a trowel and do things like that. So, which is nice, because it gives you some credibility when talking to guys that, they don't think, here's a guy who's just never touched a trowel, what would he know, right? I really try to base my background and learning the technical aspect of everything that we get involved in. And then moved on to doing national accounts managing, did a lot of big, national account projects throughout the years and managing that process, and then moved on to more managerial roles shortly after that. So I took over as a regional manager for Canada for a manufacturer out of the US, and then also worked with a few different local distributors in the managerial roles as well.
How many years are we talking about here?
Over 20.
20 years of being orange?
Yeah, well, not it being orange specifically, just in the industry.
Just in the industry.
I'd like to say I was orange for 20 years, but unfortunately, no. Finally found my home here with Schluter. Really proud to be here and part of this team. So
it's a nice home.
Yes, it is. I can't complain, and there's actually one right in the background for us. So.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, that's a silhouette of a house. Yeah, that's what we have here.
That new Troba level stuff, which is actually amazing that I saw. When did I first see that?
Probably at Coverings. I think I connected with you there.
Yeah, that's where I saw it, and I was really impressed by that. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Why are you so quiet, man? You've been asking, Carlito.
I'm getting to know
You've been asking for this podcast,
Listen, I love Schluter. So do you.
How long you been using Schluter?
I've been using Schluter for 25 years.
25 years.
Yeah. I also had known Todd for 25 years since the beginning of his career here. He saved me a numerous amount of times. Schluter's put me through and made my business. If it wasn't for this product, I wouldn't be who I am today. It's honestly, it's really got me to where I'm at. It's made my life easier. Who wants to work with chicken wire?
Nobody. I know that's where I started, believe it or not. That's what I used to have to do as one of the lackeys doing the chicken wire, and looking back now, and that's the funny thing. Speaking of Todd, meeting him 20 years ago, same scenario. Again, I don't want to make this podcast about Todd.
Yeah. Neither do we, man. No, we have one already with Todd, so let's focus on it.
Yeah, it's a funny story. He shows up at our location and just shows us this orange stuff, and being the wire mesh guys and the chicken lath guys, just looked at him and said, "This is never going to fly here. Sorry, buddy. Good luck."
Is it really true that chicken wire is strictly a Toronto thing, not so much as an Ontario thing? It's a Toronto thing.
It's very GTA-centric for sure. It's one of those things that's been accepted. I'm not even sure that it's something that's been widely accepted by the building code. It's just one of those things that's been, added in. Just because so many people do it, they've accepted it.
Yeah, and
that's not necessarily right? So
it doesn't make it right, absolutely. No. I agree with you 100%. And that was, something I learned when I came here, and thinking that I thought it was a widely accepted application. In fact, it's not.
Yeah, well, I hated it. I'd be scratching cabinets. I'd be cutting myself. I'd be tearing up my interior of my car or my truck.
Oh, yeah.
And I've seen 100 different ways of doing chicken wire.
Yep.
Wafer screws, staples, air staplers, all of it was wrong. Even cleaning it up was wrong.
Yep.
When I was introduced to the Schluter, it changed my world. It was basically throw the thin set down, iron it out, and
anybody could do it.
Yeah.
That was the beauty of the product.
Well, not anybody. You still have to have common sense.
No, you're right. And I shouldn't say that, a broad statement. You're right. But it makes it so much easier. Imagine, like you said, I don't know how many cars I scratched trying to put wire mesh into their cars for them and all these kinds of things. And that's all we
you
sold.
remember those?
Well, I remember that.
Why is it bending like that? Why is it going everywhere? Why is it scratching everything? Why?
Oh, and if you've ever fallen on it, oh boy.
Or you don't like wearing gloves.
Yeah, just cut you and you'd be bleeding for...
Empty the first aid kit right away as soon as the floor is all done.
And then there's a whole other situation. Why are we still, at today's date, using rubber pans for shower pans?
That's a tough one.
Like I have customers all the time telling me, oh, you know what, my drain stinks. It smells like a swamp. There's like this really iron smell.
Yep.
That's not your drain. That's your rubber pan. Why is that still minimum code?
That's a tough one. I think until we kind of put the onus back onto the people who are endorsing that, and I don't want to generalize, but that's where it starts. We need to make sure that, it starts with guys that are doing it continuously and why, and ask the question as to why they're doing it. What can we do to improve it? And if it boils down to just cost, then, this is what we need to understand, and how do we get better at, and, how do we get better in making this industry better?
Regarding the cost, I will always argue about the cost, how I've always told everybody, do not look at the line-by-line item cost of a renovation. Look at the overall cost of a renovation. If you think you're actually saving money by doing it a different way, like the rubber, let's say, for argument's sake, you're going to be back there to redo it, and then to take out that really expensive tile, to take out that whatever details are attached, the glass involved, all that stuff. What does that cost now? So if you build it properly first with Schluter, then you're not going to be replacing any of this stuff. You have to replace it when they get tired of the design or tired of the tile, tired of the tread.
I couldn't agree more, Manny. The issue is it's the mass production. That's where that becomes an issue. Yes, dealing with an end user who invests in upgrade their bathroom or their whatever scenario they're renovating, yes, I agree with you 100%. But when you're looking at the mass production situation, it becomes a problem, right? Because pennies are all the difference.
And I have a solution to that for the people listening. If you are a contractor and you find that it may be too expensive, it's because you haven't created a relationship with a tile store or someone that sells the product. For me, I dealt with Centura for like 30 years. They gave me such a great price on it that I could give that price to my customer. One of the most beautiful things at the beginning of my career was putting this orange membrane down, and homeowners would come and say, what is that? And they loved it. It would just stand out and it would draw people to it. And
you brought up a great point, relationships. It's amazing how when I just met you 2 years ago, Mike.
Yep.
It's amazing how I met Todd maybe 10 years ago. Every person I meet at Schluter, you guys treat us well. You guys treat contractors with respect. What I found amazing, and you guys are part of that group of companies that I like working with, or suppliers, that if I've got a question, I will reach out to one of you guys, and all of a sudden you guys will actually either answer the question or find out the answer or get back to me, let me know. You guys will actually service the customer, which is boggles my mind. Doesn't that?
Well, you know what? You said something really important, and I want to basically say it doesn't matter that it's Carlito or Manny.
Yep.
It's across the whole spectrum. Everybody that calls for help gets treated well. Like, I've never been left hanging, ever.
I've had some companies that, in the beginning I have 0 followers on Instagram or something, so I'm 0. I'm a regular contractor, so to speak, and then all of a sudden you grow a following and they treat you differently, right? And I'm like, you guys treat everybody the same way. So it doesn't matter if you got 1 follower, I'm just talking social media, but even if you're a small mom and pop shop, one-man shop with a helper versus a whole crew of guys, you treat everybody the same, and that's paramount for me, man. That's why I like, and I always go back, and I think everybody from day one, you've only ever seen me use orange on my rentals, man.
And what's really crazy about Schluter is you guys behave like a ma and pa store.
Yes.
Even though you're a massive
Very
corporation, you guys treat each and every one of us like a mom and pa store. And I love that relationship with smaller stores.
And just for the record, he is not mom and I'm not pop. And that's not what we're saying here, okay? He's popping his own world, I'm popping my own world, okay? Sorry to interrupt, Pop.
But getting back to it, like, customer service is everything. And having a helpline, the product is unbelievable. It's bulletproof. To have somebody to call with the right answers, and like Manny said, if the answers weren't there, the answers will get called back.
I say thank you first because,
I
said, I really
thank
truly
you.
found a home when I've come to Schluter. It's one of those things that when I went there, it's very infectious. And what I love about it is that everyone pushes everybody to excel at what they do. Put yourself up against people like the Todds or the Dale Kempsters. These are guys who have been in the industry for 35 years or longer, or even some of our management team who's been doing this on their hands and knees themselves. These are guys that weren't just, as someone had described to me, they wear suits, but they're not suits.
No,
right?
No, they're not.
So that's where that comes from. That comes from people who understand where you guys are every day. And that's, until you have that, you'll never have that understanding. That's why I say it gives me credibility, even though I did it on a small level. I never did it as a living. It's important for me to know at least how to handle a trowel, because what credibility do I have walking into a job site in a suit? And you look at me like, what are you going to start reading some stuff out of the handbook and tell me what I did wrong? Because you don't understand. Until I've been in that scenario, then I know how you're feeling having me come in there.
That's right.
Right? So that's what's important. And what good is a product if it doesn't have the support? Right? And
totally
that's something I've learned here.
That's huge.
Because like I said, in my ventures that I've grown over the years and been in this industry for 20, that was the biggest thing. There was companies I worked for that had great products and had zero customer service. Like they had no backup.
And what happens? We leave.
Yeah,
we
exactly.
leave and we go find another product.
Right? And then here's a company that basically over supports their customers, if you will, because like I say, we do more goodwill than we ever have to. And that's because what's important to us is that it's how a company reacts in a bad situation is what makes them.
You're so right.
And that's what we do. You know how often we could easily walk away from jobs and say, listen, you guys just did not do this correctly. But our response is not to just walk away.
It's about
right?
to educate.
Our response is exactly that, is to educate. Our response is to say, hey, listen, Carlito, this wasn't done correctly. Let's look at it a little bit differently. And maybe next time we can do an individual on-site demo if necessary to treat you and your guys to a way of doing it correctly, learn a little bit, and we'll even spoil them a little. Why not, right? Get them to think.
Well, you guys spoil everybody.
Yeah.
let me tell you, I worked for State Farm Insurance for about 8 years.
How old are you?
48. 48. When I first did my workshop with you guys, I did not even know how to do a sand bed.
Oh, there you go.
That was the biggest turning stone for me. So I went there for a waterproofing course and learned how to do a sand bed. That made the biggest difference in my business. That was the biggest change for me. Like that's what made me go from amateur to pro. Like literally in one weekend.
You know what surprises me every time? Like two things that surprise me at every workshop. We run workshops continuously throughout the year, about 18 to 20.
You guys are booked how far?
And that's just we're booked. Well, we do it on a school schedule, September to June. We try to leave the summers open just because the
we want to work.
Yeah,
golf.
people want to do other things. We want to golf. But the reality is we run them almost every 2 weeks, and we get a full class every single time. And that blows me away because it's about the education. And what speaks to me more than anything is there are guys out there that want to learn. They want to be better. They want to see a different way of doing things. Beyond that, it's still shocking is the people that are guys that work with us on a regular basis and we know still open up the catalog and learn something new every single day. That's the one comment we get back is that, I love what you guys are doing here. And you know what? I would have thought that I wasn't going to learn something here. Here I am. I learned even more.
Let's get right into it. What are you going to say? I want to get into products.
I'm just laughing. He's talking about products and stuff. Like I've been doing this for almost 35 years. About a year ago, I got stuck in a condo and I had to do a Schluter kit. Yeah. That you guys showed me a new Schluter drain, a really low profile for condos. The management came up to me and said, "I've never seen this before. Nobody else in this condo has this," and it gave me so much more work just from a simple product that would just attach to cast or the copper or brass that was there.
What do you guys call that one? What's that one called?
Is that the adapter kit that you use?
That's right. Very low profile.
So you're working with the existing drain. Sometimes obviously, as you guys know in condos, you can't touch anything, so you can't dig around it or whatever. So we had to come up with a solution to solve that problem. So otherwise we would lose that business. And then, you're not going to come looking to us. And we pride ourselves on being that solution provider. And like you said, we're kind of the go-to for a lot of things. When guys call me, sometimes not even a Schluter related question, but they'll call just to ask a question, what would you do in this scenario?
Well,
right?
because you guys are looking for our feedback, because we discover certain things, you guys discover certain things. It's about working together, man.
Yeah, but for me,
come on.
there's always a gift at Schluter.
Yes.
Doesn't matter who you are, if you're new or old with the business, you will always walk away with a prize. And it's like a new trowel and the proper size trowel. And then you'll educate me before you give me the trowel on what that's used for. What other company does that?
I think it's like, but a trowel that's got a coating on it.
It's a ruby trowel. It's not
but not everybody's using those kinds of trowels, right?
No.
And I like that coating, man.
I love that coating.
I
While
love
it
that.
lasts.
Let's get into the nitty gritty. I want to know. I know you guys have the new colors.
Yes, that's the one that everyone's been anxiously awaiting, and which is all our new colored drains, as you guys are aware of. First released was the metal colors. Okay, so all the new metallic colors. We have rose gold, gold, vintage gold, and nickel. Those were the first ones to release. That would have been probably earlier, late summer, in between there. And then the one that everyone has been waiting for has been our matte finishes. So now we have 6 new colors available in the trend line. Most popular right off the gate is our matte black. Yeah,
of course.
I think Manny and I had talked about this. I think when we were on your job site, you were talking about how you did your own.
Yep.
And I
so
said,
happy.
stay patient, and I think you're going to see something exciting coming. It was a little longer than I wanted, but you know what?
But they're
In
still
the end,
waiting.
it's
They're
there.
still waiting for the linear. I'm
Yeah,
not saying
well,
anything, but
I don't have any inside information, unfortunately, to offer. You know what? I think the natural transition of things is, I would see that happening. But again, I can't promise anything. I'm not involved in those decisions. Something that you can see. It's what the market wants. And again, going back to how we function as a company, we listen to what the market is asking for, and we try to provide that. We take that market feedback seriously. One of the things that we do at that workshop every time is we give you a survey. We want to hear back from you. We want to know what's going on. And, it doesn't fall on deaf ears when you guys say things like, hey,
Sure.
Mike, you guys should be thinking about coming with a matte drain, because every time I need to do one, I do it myself. That's great, but
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Now we are doing that kind of thing. Those matte colors are going to be a huge, I think,
can you say
success for us.
how is that finish achieved? Can you say it, or is that a proprietary kind of thing?
It is proprietary,
Okay, all right,
but
right.
it is basically the grates. They are stainless steel, as opposed to our shelves. We have the matching shelves to go with that.
Yeah.
So that was an add-on as well. Those are aluminum. Okay, so those obviously we didn't want to powder coat those, so try to maintain that. We did that with the aluminum product. They're a lot lighter, so you'll notice a difference between the powder coated ones versus our stainless steel version. So you'll notice that right away. It's been a great success so far, and again, we've only been a couple weeks into this as far as releasing them. So,
But the
black
demand is there, though.
The demand is there. Black is already. I'm starting to see the first reports that I've been getting in matte black. Matte white, I think, is going to be a close second, and then the other colors follow.
I'm looking at Carlito, and he looks like he's got a number of questions.
Listen, I can't
It's like
keep
he's
up with all
swallowed
the
a canary.
changes. It's fantastic. I used to be able to walk in and just say, "This is what I want." Now I'm like literally standing and staring and trying to
decisions.
Like there's just so many options.
There are. And you know what the beauty about it is that for so many years, at least from what I've seen as far as the company is, we've been that behind the scenes thing, like the technical aspect of what you do in an install, like waterproofing and the uncoupling and all those kinds of things that for so long we really weren't the lipstick, the out in your face, right? So when we came out with Trendline, that was a pretty big deal. And even I kind of given that a little bit of, didn't give it as much credit as it deserved until I started seeing it installed. Once I saw it installed, I was, wow.
Then you saw the potential.
Why are people not using this more often? That's what was my question, as opposed to not thinking people would use it. Sometimes things are even for myself, are eye openers. Same thing with the shelves. The shelves are not something that necessarily has to go with our system. And that's what the beauty of it is. And so many people, I didn't think much of it in the beginning. A lot came out of it. The feedback, the initial feedback that we got from just introducing the stainless steel ones, they allow the water to flow through. The niche shelves are doing extremely well. And the retrofit is fairly simple and easy. People, again, like Curdy board as an example, people often think, it's not strong enough. It's not going to hold.
That's a misconception.
But we have it here in the booth now, and you can see it firsthand. You can literally hang off of them. We don't recommend that. Sorry, just as a disclaimer.
No, but I've literally installed like 2 mil thick glass mosaic. I would say 6 mil thin by, I'm going to guess, 2.5 inches or 3 inches long piece of glass as mosaic on Curdy. Once you install it, it's rock hard. It doesn't have that give. It doesn't have that flexibility.
Yeah.
Once that happened, it's the same thing like 10 years ago when I first used a tray for the shower floor and I put it in and I'm walking on foam and I was trying to explain it to other contractors. I'm like, it's foam, man. I don't know what else. It's foam. I don't know how else to describe it. It's foam. But I'm so used to sand mix.
It's the same old, and that's the thing, is getting people out of that mentality of, I try to say at the workshops now, the most dangerous thing you can say in business is, I've always done it this way.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's something that's expressed in construction way too much.
The biggest excuse is when we walk into job sites and we see and they potentially have a claim or an issue and we're there to help. I've been doing, and they start rhyming off their resume. I appreciate that there's guys that are good at what they do and they've been doing it for years, and I can understand that, and I can see where they would be frustrated. It doesn't necessarily mean this particular situation it went right.
Yeah.
That's all we really can say about that. I can appreciate that you've been doing this for 30 years and you've been in this industry longer than me. Doesn't necessarily mean you did this correctly.
There could have been a misstep.
Exactly.
There could have been, and we don't know. Yeah, I don't like the construction industry because most guys are so easy to point fingers, and they'll always point at the manufacturers, the suppliers, and the products, and they won't really consider who did it or how they did it until the very end. But I mean, we all are
we know as contractors when there's a problem.
We know where the problem is.
And that's when you should stop. It's when you need to stop and say, I got a problem.
I messed up. I'm sorry.
Yeah, not try to keep moving forward because you just want to make the money. At some point, you need to have integrity and say, you know what? I'm going to walk away, figure this out, redo it.
Couldn't agree more, and that's oftentimes what we say. Part of our team, I always tell the guys, or I tell anybody we're talking to, call us before. Or call us while you're on the job site. We don't have a problem with
questions,
that.
man.
We've often dropped what we're doing to go run and help somebody. It's not it's not an issue. And it's like someone once told me our company is the type of company that goes running to a problem instead of running away from a problem because we want to solve the issue.
I've seen 2 or 3 of you show up, not just one.
Yeah.
Like I've called and said I've needed help. I needed help many times.
And Carlito, you know what the reason for that is? Sometimes there's someone in our company that has more expertise in that particular situation than us. We're not perfect, but we, like I tell people, use the resources. Resources. No one expects you to know everything, but if you know where to find the answers, that's the key.
And I think you said something earlier that every project is different. It doesn't matter if it's a bathroom job. Not every bathroom job is framed the same way, the same floor joist, the same plumbing. Mm-hmm. There's always a situation that's different.
Custom means custom.
It's like a fingerprint. It's always going to be different.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What other new products we want to talk about?
One of the other new products, I think you touched upon it already, was the Trobo level. That's something that's, I think, is going to, it's perfect timing now that it's going to be out in the spring. So just as we get through this, winter, I think we'll be lined up and ready to go for all those applications, balconies, terraces, any type of outdoor application. It's now kind of, obvious for us and our team, it's going to be a go-to system, and we've already seen so much interest in it. I'm looking forward to seeing how well this goes.
What's the lowest it can go and what's the highest it can go?
It'll range anywhere from the floor all the way up to, on a 5-degree slope. Okay, up to 15 inches.
15 inches?
Wow.
Versus, really, yeah?
Yeah, you can stack there. You can't see one from here. I don't think we're blocked, but where that gentleman is standing, you can see that there's it stacks up with 3 of the spacers in between, up to 15 inches.
And it's designed for a 5-degree slope.
5-degree slope, yeah.
Got it. Which is going to be your minimum anyway on a flat roof application when you want to do this. So basically, for people who don't know about it, how do you describe it? It's a pedestal, right?
It's a pedestal.
It's a plastic pedestal, and it's designed to. Can you still use dimensional lumber with it?
Technically, I guess you could. What you'd need to do is make sure you meet all the engineering requirements. Again, we're not the authority on that, so I wouldn't recommend.
But primarily, it's designed for a 2x2 stone paver of some sort of material.
Or larger.
Or it can go even larger than 2x2. Really?
It can go as small as 8 inches all the way up to it.
I guess it depends on the material.
Yeah, what would happen there is that once you have that, anything larger than 2x2, the pedestals, you might have to have additional supports underneath that.
In between, depending on that. Yeah, but ideally, you guys have designed it for a 2 foot by 2 foot.
Ideally, yeah. I would say that seems to be the most common because that's the factories these days, that's what they're producing in the 2cm products. So that's the most abundance. But as that changes and the styles change, you may see that change. Again, we'll have to adapt to whatever comes our way. What ends up happening there, that becomes now the manufacturer's recommendation as to what they expect. Again, this is fairly new for our market in general. So I think we're all learning as we go. We provide the pedestals. We don't necessarily know all the ins and outs as far as what the requirements are on the tile, what their load capacities and so on are. So those kinds of things will all have to be done with research.
I love that it protects the roof. So it protects actually the waterproofing membrane of the roof, but it lets Mother Nature go through.
And how does it do that? I'm always
there's
worried
no UV, so there's no UV touching it because you're blocking it. You're basically blanketing.
No, I know, I understand that part. I was more worried about the footing of it, like underneath, how it applies to either the cold or hot process roofing membrane.
I have yet to see one damage any kind of
so we have a pad. basically, that goes underneath the base pedestal.
Okay.
That protects the roofing membrane. And then from there, you build up as you need to. Either we have the adjustable or we have the stackable options, both available, as well as we have some spacers. So when you have to make adjustments, and the nice part is whenever you can is do the adjustable because it just torques, right? You just turn it and you torque it and you raise it up to whatever level you need to.
I didn't realize that you can get up to 15 inches, huh?
15
That's
inches.
tall.
Yeah, and then it allows all the water to flow through the grout joints because it's not grouted, right? So it's just a loose piece of tile that sits on top of the pedestal.
Could I use it under my subfloor in my basement?
No. Your basement's going to go from 8 foot to what? 7 foot. 7 foot basement, just so you can have some troll levels there. No.
But it's great for balconies, patios, rooftop terraces where typically we're unusable spaces. This is a perfect way to get rid of, the slope's still there. We can now level out the paver to be a flat floor, so that way everybody can walk on.
You know what was scary is back in the day, or I guess they're still doing it. You know how they used to do it, right? Using 2-inch or 1-inch SPS polystyrene.
Yeah, I've seen worse stuff. I've seen concrete pavers go down.
Concrete
just lumber,
pavers go down.
Lumber just rotting under there.
But that's
guys
just
strap it.
That's going to eat away at the roofing membrane.
These are things that people have to learn, right?
So that's why this makes more sense. So you put that up there, and it's great.
And it's adjustable. And with our climate, guys, that's the beauty about this particular
4
product.
seasons, man.
It allows it to move and be independent of the roof or whatever substrate it's on, and we're good to go. There's no issue. Minor adjustments, yearly if needed. And
a new favorite of mine is your how big is that? 6 foot? No, 6.5. How many?
The Curdy membrane.
Yeah.
It's the 2 meters.
2 meters.
6 foot.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
6.5. That's a product we released last year. It didn't take off as much simply because I think it's really geared towards guys like yourselves who are more experienced with our product on the regular. It will speed things up. You get one foul swoop right through the shower, and then you only have one connection to make, which is along the base, which ties right into our tray.
Or even a curbless shower, a custom curbless shower. You could do one.
Yeah, we've done 2 demos today, and that's exactly what we're showing here. We did the 2-meter Curdy tying into the shower base.
Yeah, I love the Curdy board.
Whenever you can. That's one of our highest recommendations is working from the studs out. Gives you a perfect opportunity to level things out. You can wet shim. It's a waterproofing's built in. You're ready to go and ready to tile. Ideal product. That's probably one of the most versatile products I've seen in our industry because you can build with it.
It's easy to work with, man.
Yeah, it's just so simple. You really need a few tools, and that's it. A straight edge, a cut, a knife, some mortar, and you're good to go. A little bit of Curdy Fix if needed, and you can build pretty well anything out of it.
I love Curdy Fix.
Oh yes, the universal.
Everybody's using it, which is great.
It's the magic compound.
It solves a lot of problems. Some things a little unconventional, but it's interesting to hear, and it's you see what people can really do with something.
Are you allowed? Because when it comes to 2-inch Curdy board, are you allowed to use a circular saw to cut it, or are you not asked? It's fine, right? Because I just did it before asking permission, and I was just curious. Am I supposed to be doing this?
Yes.
But I did learn. Remember, we learned on the Bosch table saw, the Reax one.
Yeah, as long as it cuts clean the way you want it to, doesn't tear up.
It actually stopped. It stopped because it detected it as if it had moisture in it, right?
Oh.
It was a weird. Remember that? It was weird. It was so there's like wet wood, and then we learned really quickly anything foam or styrofoam. If the blade touches it, it actually activates and it shuts it down, right? So we're like,
safety mechanism.
That was interesting. So I always thought that you were supposed to, but I didn't ask you guys that question.
Listen, straight for me, I find the easiest a straight edge, exactly,
and just cut it,
and it's
done.
The easiest. It's done. Right?
Yeah,
it's not
for
that
me,
challenging.
it's still sand beds. Like I just.
How old are you again?
The problem is that I don't get to build the bathrooms I want. Everything's always custom, and it just.
But there's a tray that's custom for. There's plenty of trays. There's plenty of trays that you can use for application.
Once you start cutting the outside of the tray,
you got to balance it.
Yeah, I know, but most guys don't. So.
Are you most guys?
And I love sand beds. I honestly do. I just put my Curdy over
again,
top.
I can agree with that 100%. There's guys that are good at it. Guys like myself who are probably not as versatile in the sand bed. The shower tray, again, another one of those products that to me is ingenious. That it makes it so simple. Not everyone has got that expertise. I always say sand, dry pack is an art, and not a lot of guys are good at doing it, and that's the important part. But we can do either or, as long as the waterproofing still can tie in, the drain still works with that, and that's what's the beauty about, again, going back to our products and where we started is that it's a tile setter who invented products for tile setters.
We did a podcast last week with a tile supplier, Seat. We asked them the question about where all the faults are, and we were surprised to hear that most of the faults with some of their jobs or their clients' jobs were at the drain. the drains are leaking. Obviously, they might be doing rubber membranes. I don't know what
they are, for sure,
using
guaranteed.
rubber membranes, yeah, and that's exactly it. So that's why we were a little surprised, because they're using very expensive finishing material, tile material, and all of a sudden they're failing, and that can be avoided really easily. And then we also spoke up and we shared and we just explained to them that customers need to understand, or even contractors need to understand. I'm hoping that most contractors know this. The tile is not the waterproofing material of any shower. The tile, I just want to repeat that. The tile is not the waterproofing material. Right? I don't care if it's porcelain. Yeah, sure. The actual center point, yeah. But once you have a grout line, that's a hole.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, because I think for years, over generations, people tiled those, their showers because they thought that's what it was. It was a waterproofing surface, a waterproofed surface, essentially. The issue is that you still have porous parts of that. Not all tiles made the same. Let's start there. Stone in itself is porous, and grout, any cementitious product that's involved, is porous. Tile itself can be somewhat impervious, but you still have weak points, okay? And it's vapor drive that is what causes the issue. This isn't like, I always tell guys, this isn't like seeing water dripping from your ceiling, because that's obvious. This is the unobvious situation. This is the constant vapor drive of droplets that are pushed through continuously over time. And it's, the death by 1,000 cuts, that kind of thing. So it's constantly happening, right? And then 2 or 3 or 4 years later, after they've spent who knows how much money on this, using all these beautiful finishes and all this, and they didn't protect their investment by installing good quality technical products, that's where the issues start. You get that buildup, that constant buildup. It could be something as simple as just a little bit of mold, but that mold, once it grows roots, it's almost like a bacteria. It will just not go away. And the issue, back to your point about shower pans, where does that smell come from? It's from the saturation of the moisture that gets through the tile and sits inside there and just never gets a chance to evaporate. All the stuff that we've set ourselves up for are kind of like the last lines of defense. We've never set anything up to be the first line of defense, as I like to say. The first line of defense now is Curdy. Hits the tile, tries to go through like it should, and then eventually it just doesn't have much of a surface to really penetrate, goes away. If there's no waterproofing there, what happens is hits the tile, goes through, now starts to embed itself into the building materials.
There could be a failure if you don't level your walls properly, and I've seen guys build up thin set that's more than 3/4 of an inch, and then you got this stagnant water back there, right?
No, I agree with you, but again, this is just the basics of understanding it,
right.
And this is what we like to try to make sure that everybody understands why we do these things, and that's a big part of what, going back to this whole thing about education and workshops and what we do is, we don't do these things to say, hey, we've come up with the magic solution to everything. To understand that there's a better way. Understand what the original way of doing something was or is, like dry pack and mortar beds and traditional systems. That's our biggest issue in our marketplace, is traditional systems. That's what we fight every day. But understanding that those traditional systems, not only is there a better way, it's also easier. We can create some longevity in our industry, maybe attract some new generations.
How do you feel about the new generation in tiles?
What do you mean tiles?
Well, just guys,
tile setters.
Are you seeing
up
more
and coming
younger
installers? I think the newer, like the younger generation of installers definitely are adapting to ideas better.
Wow.
So that's the nice part.
I'd agree. I totally agree on that, yeah.
Because, that philosophy, I think in the past there was that whole apprentice type mentality. This is how I learned from my predecessor, so therefore this is the way I'm going to do it because it's the only way I've ever been taught to do this. And like I say, this is how I've always done it, is the most dangerous, words a guy can say. This is the difference between the newer generations. They're adapting, right? Because they're used to adapting because of today's society, like all of us, like we are today, we're doing a podcast.
We're talking,
like, and
construction.
5-10 years ago, nobody was doing that kind of thing, right? This is the difference, is that they adapt to these type of new technologies a lot quicker than, let's say, the older generations, right? So
are we, like I was just going to ask you, are the older generations embracing it just as much as the younger guys, or are we kind of a rare breed here?
No, again,
I've met my share of guys.
You know what? It's a great question. The thing for me, I think I find is, we're kind of that in between. You guys, obviously, you know how to use a smartphone, you know how to use computers, so you're adapting to technology, and that's because you're open-minded, right? So it starts there. Is not sitting there and saying to yourself, "No, I have all the answers," right? What are you going to teach me, right? And that's the attitude that you can't have, because especially starting out in this industry when I was younger, and I had some of those roles where I had to come in and actually talk to a guy who did have much more experience than me, wouldn't necessarily take me seriously.
Hey, but I embraced that because I actually wanted to ask that person more questions.
That's the difference.
I'm like, I'm only going to learn because I actually get next to a person who knows more than me. And that's how it works, right? That's like really simple math. If I'm watching how you do it and you don't want to teach me whatever, but I pay attention to how you're doing it, I can say, that's good. I'm not crazy about that. I'll change that. But I'm going to listen, but I'm going to ask you how you did it because you got more experience than me, right? And vice versa. The younger guys will come up to me and ask me, and my running joke is I just can make it up as I go, right? That's all I just say, right? So I'll just change it. I'll say I just make it up as I go.
But there's a lot of truth to that.
There is a lot of truth because you do kind of construction custom is a lot of improvisation. But you take the core idea of what you're supposed to do and you pay attention to the rules, and we joke about how we don't read manuals, and I'm not sure. Do you guys still put the DVDs in the packages still?
DVDs are obsolete.
They're obsolete
there
now.
You go.
Thank goodness, man. Because I always felt bad. Whenever I opened them up, I just chucked them, and I was like, man,
you know what? I feel another way. Like,
what do you do?
There's guys
play
that
it?
have worked for me. They're not into technology. I still have older
DVDs,
discs, and I'll just throw them in my truck at lunch. They'll watch the video. They may not learn everything they need to, but at least when I get into that bathroom with them, they have an understanding of how to prep for me while I'm on the tools. And then when I see that they've prepped properly, then the next step is to put them on a tool. If they pass that, then they get to the next. Sometimes guys and girls need a visual. Not everyone's. Manny makes fun of me all the time. He's a tacky guy. I'm not.
But everybody's got a smartphone. I have yet to meet a contractor who doesn't have a smartphone. Everybody's got a smartphone. So if you want to find out about something, Google it and YouTube it, and you'll see a video.
But Googling everything isn't the right answer either. I've seen some really stupid stuff online.
Yeah.
No.
I can't believe that.
Like with Schluter, you actually find the video that you guys have posted on your channel.
And that's a very good, that's a very important point. There are a lot of guys who, piggyback off our product, and we, again, we can understand why, and we appreciate that. They want to be experts in their fields, and of course they've come across
trying to get
product.
your attention.
Yeah, and get attention, and that's fine, and that's all fine and good. The issue there is that, all I can say to anyone doing that is just be cautious. Our videos are our videos. It's Schluter North America, not, a how-to video from
Bob's Tile.
ABC contractor and wherever, right? You want to make sure you're getting the right information from the right place. That's what's key. And all our information, just as an example, like, our literature is great, but our digital information is always the first to get updated. So if there's ever any question, it's always the digital version that gets the most up-to-date.
But most guys are actually going to the digital platform before they're going to a hard copy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the hard copies are nice.
Yes, they're nice, and we put them everywhere.
They're in my truck. I have them in my truck, in both my doors. I have every single hard copy. I do too. They have the curls. They have the curls from it. You know what I'm saying?
Beat up. Yeah,
in and out.
I try to upgrade mine as much as I can. I think it's important to have those little things.
I do.
Because sometimes, you know what? Your game's not on. Sometimes you could be stressed out. You're not focused. And you just need to just go back and just overview. You have the information. You don't have to call anyone or Google anything. I'm an old school guy. Still got that kind of stuff. Getting back to learning, in tiles, I've learned more from the new generation than I have in any other part of the trade. I've learned how to miter, polish.
I think it's what Mike said. I think the younger guys have been more challenged to try new ideas regarding tiling versus the old school guys who were like, listen, you're my apprentice. You're going to be my apprentice for a very long time, and I'm only going to teach you X amount each year. I think the younger guys now are like, I want to learn more. I want to get out there. I want to know what site I got to go to, what workshop I got to go to, what product to try. And then all of a sudden they start trying new ideas, right? I was going to ask you, Mike, what difficult situations have you guys come across? Like one of my first difficult situations with Schluter was when I did curve and rounded corners in a shower, right? So I had to figure out how to do that. I couldn't at the time use your flexible. It just didn't work for me. So I ended up using a different product, but then I still curdied it. I used exterior foam is what I used, and it had a cement on it, and then I put Carltio on top of it, and then I made sure that it was all good, and then I tile from there. What other difficult applications have you seen some of these younger guys? I mean, I've seen some of the stuff that you guys, the curved benches, the heated back seats on benches in showers. Yeah. I've seen those. Those are great. What other crazy kind of things?
We've been doing that for a while now.
No, I mean successfully.
I've never had a callback yet.
On any of the curved benches?
Never.
Nothing?
And, how did you do radiant heat?
The flexible Carltio didn't come out until when?
Oh, geez, that's a great question. I'm not
5-6 years ago, maybe?
Oh, it might have been longer than that.
A little longer?
What we did was we stacked them up, the 2-inch, we shaved it to the style that we wanted.
That way, huh?
And then, I mean, CurdyFix goes a long way. You can
does.
butter up anything with that, and once it's dry, it's good to go.
Yeah, that's probably one of the biggest things, actually, CurdyFix being one of the ones that people want to use for every application. They want to say, hey, why can't I do away with, instead of waterproofing with the banding, can I just use CurdyFix or what have you? That's probably one of the biggest ones we get. So it's time consumption. They feel like they need to speed things up even more. And that's probably a problem with our society.
Yeah, my argument with that is that I'm pretty sure most clients are bringing out 20 plus, maybe 50 plus a square foot tile for you to install. And I'm like, man, get it right from the beginning and prep it all, because you're using very expensive. And now, like, even when we're talking, and we know the trends are slabs.
Yes.
Slabs being installed.
Our biggest challenge, I think, because people look to us as being the leaders in pretty well everything, because we've paved the way for this whole
No, you really
sector.
have.
You know, we were the innovators, and until now, obviously, it's now mainstream. You know, the biggest issue, I think, going back to that point, is probably staying relevant enough, fast enough with what else is coming out. As an example, like slabs. So, you know, going off of what you were saying there, Manny, is the slabs. People are using that on the floor. So we're still in the process of doing some testing and all those kinds of things. So that's one of those challenges that we have. So that's probably, I would say, one of the biggest challenges is trying to stay up to speed with what else is coming out. Because, you know, we're German, and to the point of, you know, we want to make sure we understand.
You're not German.
I'm not German. The company is German. You're correct.
I was waiting for that. I'm not German. You're German? I'm not German.
Sorry, I had to.
It's just, you know, staying on course and making sure that we follow the right steps, because we never want to misstep. We don't want to be in a situation where we recommend something without fully understanding what exactly are the, you know, the ins and outs of that scenario.
Yeah, we see like a lot of floating seats. We see a lot of curve action going on in showers. We see a lot of slabs going on. That's what people are asking, whether they be 6 mil, 12 mil, 2 cm, 3 cm. We're seeing some insane work. We're seeing full floors now. Now they're actually getting out of the bathrooms and making the entire living room, kitchen, everything, all full slabs, fewer grout lines. We're seeing a lot of stuff, right? And you guys have to figure out how to apply all those kinds of things, right?
Yeah, and that's a challenge, right? So it becomes harder and harder when you got these technologies all at different times, trying to stay, you know, ahead of the game or create a new way of doing things. And that's probably one of our biggest challenges now, is just staying relevant with all those different applications that are out there these days, coming so fast and furious. And that relates back to technology. Technology as a whole just keeps coming faster and faster, and younger generations keep challenging us more and more and more. I think.
But you guys want that. You want
absolutely.
These kids.
We embrace it. To your point,
Yeah.
we embrace that. We want to know it. You know, like I was saying earlier, is we challenge each other to be better. So sometimes we bring this to the forefront. We want our company to try to do these kinds of things and stay on top of it. Again, there's a process, right? We can't just do it blindly. We want to make sure we understand everything fully and completely before we accept.
One thing I want to say is I know that it was Pat. And Pat, I'll do a little shout out to you because I know you listen to this. Pat is the one that first mentioned the app to me. I've never been a big construction app guy, and I'll be honest, like I think it was 2 or 3 years, there was so many app companies coming at my way and just going, Manny, can you try this? Can you try this? Can you try this? And it wasn't until Simon actually showed it, and all of a sudden I started using it. I'm like, man, this is really a good app, man. I know you haven't looked at it yet. Have you looked at the app yet? This app is insane. Like, what the best part of the app is when you go in there and you start asking, you try to figure out what products you need. So you describe what your shower is, right? And all of a sudden you hit configure. It actually starts to give you the retail pricing, and it starts to populate the entire cost of yes, that's exactly the expression that I made when I started looking at this. And that's what was impressive about the app. So as soon as that, you know, Pat showed it to me, and all of a sudden Simon started showing it to me, and I was like paying attention, and I started looking at it, I was going, this is actually an easy app to use. You got to try it. I'm telling you right now.
The only thing I'm worried about with that is I'm a very strong believer that there is no set price in construction. Everyone has a different speed. Everyone uses different tools. Everyone approaches every construction job differently. I think it's a great reference. For me, it's not practical because my price is different because I do different things.
No, hang on a second.
way.
The app is only designed so you can create a retail price list. So this is
Just
what
retail.
you can take this price list and all of a sudden present it to your client and go, here is the potential cost regarding all the waterproofing and whatever profiles and the drains and all this other stuff. Here's the potential price for it. You factor it into your in pricing when you're presenting a job. That's what it's for.
I think
it's a guideline, man.
I think it's great for some people. For me, I don't allow my customers to have that. I give them my price. If they don't like that, then I just move on, right?
I totally understand what you're saying. There's a few other things going along with the app. You don't necessarily necessarily have to have your customer do it per se. It's really geared towards the contractor and so on. And and right now we're trying to actually evolve that to become more relevant to the contractor. So we're getting some feedback and doing some testing and getting some ideas from that. But that being said, is the app as it is right now, it works really well. Is that one of the things is to get pricing or product information. That's just the key right off the top. And again, everything is MSRP, so we're not talking about your price necessarily or anything like that. So a customer doesn't need to know that. But more importantly, is that it actually, you can configure a whole job and be able to, right from the app.
That's what's impressive.
And send it to a customer right to their email.
That's what's
from you.
Okay,
impressive.
you've challenged me. I'll go home tonight and I'll do my homework.
Download
Okay?
So
Yeah.
you know what you need for that particular job, and you say, hey,
Yes.
I need 4 sheets of Cardi board, I'm going to put in a tray, I'm going to do a curb, I'm going to do a shell, and you pump that all in there, and then basically what you do is you then send that off to your customer.
It's making our lives easier, man. Like, we kind of have an idea of what these products cost, but they actually populate it for us.
Yeah.
So we already have that. It helps us with our pricing.
Yeah, in an email format, which is nice, and it makes you look a lot more professional to the customer. So we're trying to do things like that. Another thing we have on there that's really interesting and really caught my eye was the Dietrich heat calculator. That's probably one of the biggest things we get a lot of questions about.
Oh, I don't know about this.
Yeah, so the calculator actually has augmented reality. So you can actually take your points of reference in your shower or in your bath.
It's a good app.
And then plot all your areas, and it'll spit out all the stuff that you need for that application.
It's a good app, man.
So it's
Seriously.
more than, I think, where you were thinking it's just a price book online. It's not.
Well,
It's
here's
more
some
than
pretty
that.
pictures and some numbers. No, it's not like that, man. I'm telling you, it's a good app, man. Seriously.
I'll have to look at it tonight.
You got to check it out.
It's got some really interesting, and again, you can do it manually if you wish, if you don't want to do the augmented reality. But again, there's more to it. It's also just having all the product at your fingertips, right? So I've caught myself
Everything's
using it.
there, right?
Everything. Like you just punch in a simple word like quad. We don't even, quad
And
echo
it'll-
pop up.
everything.
It'll tell you all the size, all the different
And
finishes.
all the-
and you just click on it, and it'll just tell you, okay, yes, it's available. So sometimes, we don't even know, is that particular size, color, finish available? This is one easy way to do it. And instead
And
of
speaking of
flipping
which-
through the catalog.
Exactly.
And so on.
And speaking of which, the edging, the profiles, they're coming longer now than 8 foot, right?
Yeah.
Not all of them. Not all of them. Though,
Not
right?
all of them. Just a few of them we're starting out with. Again, that can evolve into more potentially, depending on the popularity of
Thank
it. But
God.
10 footers
Needed
are available
so-
in the most
yeah.
popular
I know.
finishes.
It was
I
so
know.
needed.
Yeah.
Well, the
Yes,
problem is that a lot of new construction was 9 foot
Exactly.
ceilings. It was.
Well, we're also talking about the same problem that needs to be changed with pencil trim for tiles.
Well, I always hated pencil tile that was always a foot or 6 inches a foot.
Oh,
I never
okay.
understood.
Instead of being one solid piece.
I know it's a fabrication thing, but I never understood it, right? So it just, you know what? We'll just give you this one because we're all German here. We're all German here, okay?
We're German now? Okay.
I'm just saying, there's maybe a thought.
Can you say it with a German accent?
No, I
We're
can't
all
do it.
German.
I don't do it. I'm not a comedian, all right?
Pretend you're Arnold.
No, here's the thing. How about we do, here's just a thought. I'm just spitballing here. What if you guys created a line of so-called pencils in the different finishes?
Honestly.
It's again.
Dun, dun, dun.
And if we're giving away things, I'll give away one of my things.
Yeah.
I use a wallpaper level. So I have 3 sizes of wallpaper levels.
What's a wallpaper level?
It's not just a square level. It has a 45-degree angle.
Oh, okay,
So
all right.
you could draw your pencil because I do sand beds because that's my go-to as a general contractor and laying tiles. It's hard to find them.
Yeah.
It would be nice to have a Schluter orange one.
Okay. Well,
How did you go from me suggesting pencil rails and different finishes
because
of all the
it's
profiles
just another tool
to
you
you
need.
wanting a level? How does that work? Make the connection, Kevin. No, I think because you guys are right. You guys are actually creating trim pieces now that are becoming the forefront. They are part of the finishing.
there might be some stuff coming every year. We're surprised, even us as employees, we're surprised with new things. And there are, I would imagine this year you might see some new interesting
I want
things
it, and
coming out.
that's what I mean. Like when I first heard about you guys 10 years, and I'll be very honest, Carlito. I'll be honestly like 100% honest. I actually did hear about Schluter for the very first time on the Mike Holmes show. That's when I first heard about Schluter. And then I went to the trade shows, saw the product, and I figured it out. And then all of a sudden I started paying attention. And I knew from that first year where you guys had what? You had a drain, You had Curdy. You had a curb. What else did you have?
Yeah, there wasn't much.
Oh,
to
you
the
had
catalog.
maybe a handful of profiles.
Were the big,
handful.
The big thing.
But that was it.
Yeah.
There was nothing else outside of that.
Let's talk about 4 things that Schluter figured out that were the biggest problems here. First, 2x4s. Who puts 2x4s as knee walls, putting glass on or for a curb? It just doesn't work. Rubber pans. Once you guys eliminated that and made it like nowhere for stagnant water, amazing. Curdy fix. Unbelievable.
The niches.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, the niches.
And the niches. Bulletproof. I mean, for me,
there's more than just 4 products.
No, I know. But I was just saying.
But I mean, those are turning points in tile construction and waterproofing. Like, I've never went back.
And the guys who've learned how to do it, because, again, there's the guys who don't understand it, so therefore shy away from it, and that's unfortunate. But yeah,
they should embrace it.
Yeah, they should embrace it, because it's
10 years ago I saw those products, and my first thought was, this company's sticking around. I didn't know how old the company was. I didn't know what it was doing. I didn't know where it was going. This company's sticking around. 10 years later, here we are. And you guys got leveling pads for out exterior stuff. You've got the in-floor heating, Ditra heat. You've got a different kind of coupling. You got the thermal TB Ditra. Yeah. The profiles are insane. The niche, everything.
Yeah, Ditra heat really changed. That was actually something that really helped change the industry.
That was amazing. I love that. Can you explain a little bit, because I don't know too much about it, but I know that the Ditra heat can be used underneath engineered flooring now.
It can be what we call all floating floors, essentially, can be used. So alternative floor covering, AFC, we've accepted that as a suitable application. What you're going to do in that case is basically pour a floor leveler in place of a mortar bed. So that's all you're doing, and then from there you install a floating floor or a glue down floor.
So you can glue it to the actual.
As long as the glue is acceptable. Now again, you have to go back to the manufacturer, do your due diligence, and make sure you understand what floor you're putting, what our standards and recommendations are.
There might be a primer that you have to put.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
whatever the case may be, that's up to them. All we're saying is that our system will work.
I like that. Did you know that?
I've always used quarter sawn wood under radiant heat, so I've never had that problem. I've floated quarter sawn, and for people who don't know, it's cut differently. It moves up and down instead of left and right. No one wants to spend the money on that, but when you get that, you don't have any problems.
Well, and that's the key, is understanding what products you're putting on top of it, because it's going to be more susceptible to, obviously, heat and expansion and different.
But it's great to hear that now we can add that, because I used to use some of your competition before, and I would do the same thing. I'd put a cork membrane down, a rollout with thin set, and then I would put thin set down again with the mat, and then I'd pour a self leveler, and then I would put my quarter sawn engineered floor.
Yeah, and now you can just do your floor leveler and away you go. So you can install directly over top. So it's a nice added feature for us that we don't eliminate one sector of a market that wouldn't necessarily shy away.
Well, flooring's flooring, right? So I'm waiting for you guys, because I remember 7-8 years ago I actually wanted to design a shower where I was going to put heated elements in the vertical application.
What?
I got a call. I got a DM on a client. Actually, funny enough, I still speak to. Whatever, people like talking to me from Texas, right?
Some people don't.
And so some people don't. That queue is a little shorter, but the other queue, let's focus on that one. Anyway, so she had a open shower. She said to me that she didn't want to put glass doors, and she said to me, I'm concerned about this shower being cold. And I'm like, it's going to be cold. And I said to her, the best thing you should do is that if it's an alcove and all of a sudden you got no door on it, I'm going to personally suggest that you heat the walls. Now, this is before Ditra heat. And so her idea was, she was like, I'm going to put a heat lamp that was not certified in the U.S., because this is the U.S. And all of a sudden I was like, me personally, I would not want to put a heat lamp thinking that you're a burger or fries and all of a sudden you're in a shower. That's just dangerous to me. I've seen guys now put the Ditra heat on benches and the backs.
I love it.
Can I technically, or am I like overstepping my boundaries because I've been called a reno cowboy now? Can I actually put Ditra on the wall on a vertical? No, you can't. He's already shaking his head.
But why can't you?
He's shaking his head.
It's again, understanding the local authorities, you cannot on a vertical surface. It's not acceptable.
What if I have steel studs, Roxel behind it?
No, but you know what you can do?
I'm not the authority, so I don't want to say what you can or not.
So are you saying I can't do it on the benches that I've been doing it on?
You can do it up to 16 inches. We can slide underneath the radar and put it on a bench, that's
But I
fine.
want to put it on the walls. You know why I want to put it on the walls?
In Europe, you can.
I love Europe.
I'm not joking,
all
but
move
I've
to
put it on
Europe.
backrests because a lot of my customers' wives want to lean on the tile.
The thing is that you'll actually feel the heat coming off the vertical surface. That's why I want it there. We need to figure out how it's going to pass code. I need to figure out how it's going to pass code because I want to start designing showers where I put the walls as heat. That's really important because everyone knows this. When you heat your heat on tile and you're in the bathroom and all of a sudden you step off the tile and you start walking on the hardwood, oh my God, that hardwood is freezing. I can't stand this. This is insane. And I'm like, we are talking about 5 degrees here, man. Yeah. But you are spoiled. But when I take a shower, I want to walk in there and I want to be like blanketed with heat. You know what I'm saying?
You know, it's funny we're talking about radiant heat. 15 years ago, I used to have customers telling me, I can't get my wife out of the washroom. She's reading books on the floor all the time. And I'm like, what? And he goes, ever since you put that radiant heat in there, she's laying on the floor all the time.
Are they calling to thank you or are they calling?
I don't know what it was.
There we go.
It sounded like the women liked it, but the men didn't.
Okay, so Mike, I gotta hold it. You gotta give us something new, something before IBS, something new.
Well,
Nothing.
I have a request.
Go ahead.
I know you have a curbless system. The last 2 or 3 customers I've had, I don't put doors on anymore. Like I just don't have doors.
What are you lazy?
You guys helped out when I was on the show. You guys helped me out, and we did 2 handicap bathrooms, no doors. The walls were 100% waterproof. The floor, you could take a hose and spray the room. It was completely waterproof. But what I was leading to is I would love to see a replacement for 3/4-inch subfloor already with an angle to a shower.
What are you
pan.
talking about? You guys have that?
No, you guys have another membrane that goes on the outside
No,
also.
you have your new tray.
The new tray is the 1-inch tray, the maximum 1-inch.
What's
height.
wrong? You don't know
Thin
about
trays.
this? How do you not know about this,
Dude,
man?
I'm
We have
busy,
22.
man.
Dude.
We have 22
I can't
trays.
keep up with
compared
you
to-
guys.
Since last year, we introduced.
They have that tray.
the 1-inch. We
Is
have
it styrofoam or plastic?
no styrofoam. This is a
Styrofoam.
1-inch tray here that you can see in the demo
And
booth
you
behind
remove the subfloor, you put
Yep.
that in.
Yes.
Yes,
Oh
sir.
my God.
Carlito.
I thought
Am
you
I
knew
that
about
far
this.
behind
You
now?
know what? I will do that for you.
How? I will get it done and get it for you. Go through R&D
You know what?
and
Before you
everything.
leave today,
It's
I will
yours.
have one for you.
You know the things I was doing. I either had to get an engineer drawing and put new I-beam,
They
like
figured
new
it out,
eyes
man.
in there.
No.
Or
when was that launched? That was launched at IBS last year.
Last year,
Yeah.
yeah. That was
Oh
last
my
year's product.
God.
And
It
we've
was
actually
brilliant, man.
expanded that tray
was
offering.
brilliant,
Why
man.
didn't
Since then.
anyone call me?
Like,
Because you
literally
don't have
within-
the app.
You know what? This is how I'm starting to feel. The ministry changes the bylaws and doesn't notify us, and now Schluter is.
No, Schluter is notifying. They are sharing. They
We
told
do our
everybody.
best to get the information out there. I don't know if we've ever been accused of that, but
No.
yeah.
I need to take another course.
It's there,
Yeah.
man. Seriously, it's there.
You know, and the crazy part is doesn't matter how long you've used Schluter, you still need to come back almost every year to do another course.
Yeah, we're
because so much stuff is
constantly
coming out.
adding stuff to the, and I'll show you that afterwards.
No, but
yeah,
you guys launched that, I think, the same time as the right angle drain, right?
yes, the right angle drain and the 2-meter Carltio. So that was last year's.
that was last
yeah,
year's,
that
yeah.
was
Oh my God.
last year's.
Well, I'm still like
I'm more disappointed in you not telling me.
No, I told you. You're probably not listening, but
Yeah.
like, believe it or not, Carlito's never been to IBS, man.
oh, really?
He's never been
We'll
to
be
IBS.
there this year.
man.
You know, my problem is that I've cared about my job so much. I've never been able to.
You're gonna use that angle.
I'm going to the change. I'm going to the change. So far in my life, I've never allowed my jobs to be left alone, and I always felt like I had to be over top of everybody. And now that I'm a little older, I'm realizing that I have to trust my trades or people that I'm using or create that great team, and I need to go learn.
yeah.
You have to come
Yeah.
to these shows. It's
And
important.
again, and this is part of what we do. And, all jokes aside, like we can, easily do that even just for you and your staff. We don't have a problem with that. That's what our team does. We'll be happy to come out and do like a one-on-one PK with your guys. What is 90% of what you do? That's what's important to me. If 90% is this, why am I going to show you 90% of my
I
catalog.
can't believe you made a pan for me just like that.
That's how quick we moved.
That's
Okay,
how
you guys
fast.
almost done back there?
Ask for something else. Hey, Santa's here. Ask for
I
something
know.
else right now. No.
Santa should be orange this year.
Santa could be orange. But okay, so you can't, nothing, not one thing. I mean, IBS is in January. We're like a month away.
You know what? Honestly, they keep pretty tight-lipped about that kind of stuff. They don't let everybody know. There's a lot of key people involved in those kinds of things. And, the way we've moved, even as a company, going back to how much we've grown, is we have that whole product development process, which is really, really important. And what that is that's truly market feedback that gets back to the company, is gathered and then utilized to create and come up with new ideas and new products that make sense for our company as well as for the trade as a whole. That's important, right? So for us to kind of loose lips sink ships, that kind of thing.
Well, you know what? I'll leave it up to Carlito, because we did a podcast earlier today with Reno Run, and all of a sudden he kept on making a bunch of suggestions that
Yeah, but I never knew.
they didn't say yes or no.
Those
but
are just ideas.
I know, but I think they're actually in the pipeline now. So start thinking, Schluter, and start
They should have gave me a list of
Start
things
coming
not
up
to
with some
talk about.
ideas, and we'll
He
see how
wasn't
Mike
expecting
reacts.
us to solve that problem.
Okay,
Let's
listen.
see how Mike reacts.
The only thing I got on Schluter is that we want to we get bigger pencils. That's it.
No,
And a level.
They're on top of us already.
And a level. No, you got two guys here that are diehard Schluter guys,
Yeah.
right? And
And
there's
we-
a lot
and
of
we
guys.
thank you guys for
Yeah,
that.
no, and we love the product because you know what?
It's never failed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just never failed. People say you don't have to reinvent things. You really don't. It's bulletproof, man. I might as well make a bulletproof vest out of it.
Speaking of which, we did see the overalls there. What was going on there, man?
yes.
Oh, man. Oh. Never mind.
Sorry.
Are we allowed to have any of those?
Those are company issue. There are, that's the whole thing with
Are you
being
guys
so
hiring?
generous. Yes. No, but there are certain things that we try to keep within the company so we can distinguish an employee from just everyone.
Well, I am
everyone.
indirectly an
but
employee.
you guys are technically, almost employees. You're so loyal to us. So there's always a few extra things that we like to get as employees that are nice.
No, they look pretty slick. We were like, hey, looking pretty fly there. So
Jesse was rocking the overalls earlier.
Yeah, Jesse had them on, and
Yeah.
I was like jealous.
We almost got him to take them off. Me and Manny were going to fight over them.
I totally forgot your name. Carlito for a second.
He wants those overalls.
No. So Carlito always has these questions at the end. So go ahead, shoot
All right.
them.
I'd love for you to just tell people, I'm encouraging people to come and take your course. It changed my world and my business and my life. I really want, because it's so close to Christmas, and I've already said to people, we've already talked about you guys give away so much just to encourage the transfer over to better product, something that it's bulletproof, something you guys really believe in. And I mean, you guys love your own product. It's amazing. Some people just make a product and just sell it. You guys really love your product.
No, we really do bleed orange. Believe it or not.
When a guy takes a course or a girl takes a course at your school, what are the things you get?
Most importantly, all that is a lot of people probably come for the free stuff, but the most valuable
Wait a minute, there's free stuff?
There's always free stuff, free trowels, free bag, free vest.
The reality is the most valuable thing you're going to walk away with is the education and knowledge. You're walking out there a better person.
Yes.
If you really care about your industry and what you do, it's going to show, and it's going to show by you wanting to do that stuff. And like I said, it astonishes me that we fill those classrooms up every few weeks or every couple of weeks, and that's not including, let's say, remote workshops that we go out to, like remote areas that necessarily people wouldn't come out to us if otherwise, right? That's the most valuable thing I think they could take away from us, because we don't do it because we want, again, this is a huge investment, guys. Understand that we do this out of our own pocket.
Yeah.
No one subsidizes us for this. We spend, I can't even imagine how much money is spent
I've
there.
been in there, and I'm like calculating. And I'm like,
and guys, and it's not a shortcut. We don't sit there and say, oh, we're only going to give you like a little mini version. No, we create
the full course,
a full idea of what you're going to be dealing with on the regular, and it's geared towards the trade, and it's a full educational process. So I think the most valuable thing you're going to pull away from it is education and knowledge.
How does one sign up? Like, is there a specific? Or
basically, you go online. You can do it through the app, or you can do it online, or you can contact us directly, and we, can either call the 1-800 number, or you can contact one of our reps that are here. Classrooms are typically full, unfortunately. And what we do is, again, we can squeeze some people in when can. They're not always available.
Squeeze me in, please.
Yes, it's not a problem. We'll squeeze one in. And, again, and we look at everybody as an equal. Like, we want everybody to come out. We want, give everybody the opportunity for that. We even customize things to people's needs. So like I said to you, Carlito, if ever needed, you want to work with us and we want to have you come in, we do it all the time. We can use the classroom as our space. We have no problem making that investment continuously over and over.
Have you been
to
the new facility?
Not the new one.
North of Toronto there?
No.
Yeah,
It's
Vaughan,
pretty impressive, man.
I'm doing everything that I tell people not to do. And that's educate myself. I've been so busy with my business and running it that I forgot to do what I always tell everybody. I've been preaching and not doing what I've been preaching.
What's the matter with you? Huh?
Hey.
Yeah, but that's going to change now, right? So
That's right.
Well, talking about change, Carlito, you want to ask?
Yeah, what would you like to see changed in the industry?
That's a great question. And the thing is, what I want to see change is people should care more about what they do. And by doing that, it's educating themselves. That's been something that I learned probably day one when I stepped into this industry. What my boss at that time had told me, he said, listen, let the customer make an educated decision. What does that mean? That means that you have to have enough knowledge to pass on to that customer to allow them to make the decision that's right for them. Don't assume that your way is the right way. Just give them all their options, and they can make that decision for themselves.
Man, a good idea is a good idea.
Correct.
Right.
And that's the whole thing. So that's what you want from, I think from anybody, is if you have that education, you can better yourself. And you know what? It helps you become a better professional, I think, in our industry. In this whole company, and the whole point of the fact that we pushed education so much is it comes from the top down. Like, that's what our owner wanted to do. He wanted to better the industry. He wanted to see this industry flourish. And that's what he's done, right? He's created this vibe.
I never asked what the story was, why he started this.
You should have been on the last podcast.
Todd probably did a better job. He's got much better, knowledge of the history. Cole's Notes version, or the version I've heard, is simple. Werner Schluter was a tile setter, master tile setter in his own right, and knew that's what he wanted to do his whole career. But he saw a better way. But he didn't see things evolving the way he wanted to. So he started with a single profile. And if you look at the front page of our catalog, that's what he's holding. That's
what he began with, the profile.
The simple sheen profile. Okay?
Look at that.
And Mr. Schluter is still involved with the company today. Really nice to see. It's still a privately held company and all that kind of thing, so it didn't get gobbled up. All that to say is that he started off with that simple profile, seeing that, the continuous misuse of tile being used, let's say, on stairs or transitions was constantly getting damaged, and he thought there's got to be a better way to fix this. So he moved on and said, you know what, I'm going to create something. He went to a metalsmith and had that first profile created, and then it kind of evolved from there. He started offering that to some of the other tile setters, said, hey, this is what I've come up with as an idea, what do you think? They started to buy and sell, and use the material, and then it slowly evolved, and he had a lot of other creative ideas to help the situation. Yep. Like, how do you tie in the waterproofing? How do you make product waterproof? All these kinds of things, asking questions and then figuring out a way to make it better, and that's what he did. And
Germans.
so that's why we, our kind of like our philosophy is that product that's made by a tile setter for tile setters.
Yeah,
so it's not a guy who just has this great idea who's never laid tiles. This is a gentleman that spent better half of his life actually installing tiles and understanding what the difficulty of it is and how can I make this better. If you start as a newer generation today with the products we have as opposed to the products we used to have, as an example, carrying bags of cement and all that stuff, the wear and tear on your body, this creates a little bit more longevity, in our industry. Much rather carry Curdy board up, 2 flights of stairs.
For sure,
sure.
Than carry cement.
I used to carry it all the time. Like, what? So, was I crazy?
Yes.
Well, forget about just the carrying, just cutting.
Yeah.
Just the unhealthy
It's a knife. No dust
now.
Right. So,
answering your question, I think this is, what I think would make sense for our industry moving forward is that people take the time to understand what it is they're getting involved in, and don't be afraid to get involved in a trade. Trades are not what people...
I'm happy you're saying that.
I don't like people who look down at the trade and think, because listen, not everyone's a doctor, not everyone's a lawyer. Everyone needs somebody to help fix their house, right?
Everyone needs a house, everyone needs a renovation, exactly. Everyone needs us, right?
And they have just as much knowledge as anybody else. And if they don't know what they're doing, they can screw up just as much as a doctor who doesn't know.
100%.
Yeah. We're always trying to figure out a way to encourage people to be more attracted to this industry. Any way of encouraging people to get involved into this industry and what kind of attitude they should have?
I think we've answered that question throughout the whole podcast. The risk of sounding repetitive is just a matter of being open-minded, educating. There's a lot of great programs. There's a lot of great programs out there. Back in the day, the only way of really understanding how to do something in the industry was finding a good guy who's made himself successful and apprenticing under him. But now there's actual programs out there. Like a lot of these colleges offer things, and we actually do a lot of that work for the colleges. We bring them in and they use us as part of their educational process. They actually, yeah, we do a few. We
that
have a
makes
couple,
sense.
because we want to start with them young so they can see, hey, this is the right way to do things moving forward. So that's how we kind of get into those young minds right off the top. I remember when I first started, I went out to my very first workshop in Ottawa, and I sat beside a young guy and sitting here thinking to myself, and he goes, I said to him, so what kind of products were you using before you got into this industry? And he was a 19-year-old kid just starting out, and he says to me, he goes, I've only ever used Schluter.
Wow.
And I said, really? And I'm sitting in my mind going, well, how about wire mesh? How about, all these things? And he's like looking at me, and I said wire mesh, just insulted the guy. What are you talking about? It just go to show, and that's when my light bulb went off, and I said, it's starting. It's changing.
It's true.
Because here's a 19-year-old kid who's known nothing different. Now, that's the problem we have, is that we do.
Because he's used your product and it doesn't fail. It doesn't create a problem like wire mesh. That fails and that creates a problem. So and you have a product that doesn't fail and doesn't create a problem, then you're going to use it and you're going to continue to use it. Just like Carlito and I.
Who wants to lay tiles on razor blades? I don't have a question for you, but I do want to say thank you to Schluter, the Schluter team.
No problem. Thank you guys.
The support and what you've done for me and the money that I've made in the last 25, 30 years.
Well, the work
in
that you've
tile
completed,
setting,
right?
Wouldn't have been possible if you never made it easy by supporting me and giving me the tools I needed.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks, guys. I
Thank
appreciate
you,
it.
man. So this has been great.
We really appreciate it. And guys, keep doing what you're doing, because, I think we need more voices out there, people to kind of put things out there.
Nobody's listening to these two jokers.
and you know what? Todd, you can't hide. You can't hide.
Todd, we're coming after you, Todd. We're coming after you. This has been great. So we're at the Buildings Show, booth number 1322. 22 at the Schluter. Actually, it's nice to be here.
Did you say Tutu?
1322 show. Okay, and we are getting out of here. Who's waving at you there?
Good friend.
Oh, okay.
All right, let's do it.
Thank you again, Mike. I know that was relatively painful, but you did great, man. It was amazing to have you on the show. We love doing this show, especially at the building show now here. This is our first time that we're tackling this, and get us out of here. Where are we? We're in
TO 416 TO.
Out of here.
I love it.